Welcome back, everybody. It's Robbie from Miscellaneous Candor, frank, honest, and otherwise outspoken. So here we are, Christmas Eve. Yes, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. But we are airing an episode on Christmas Eve. Hey, Steven.
Hello, Robbie. Hello, my friends. Happy holidays. Good to be here. Good to be chatting with you.
Good to be chatting. So, wait, Steven, do you celebrate Christmas?
I celebrate the celebration part of Christmas.
Oh, okay. It's just checking.
You know what I mean?
Like, I was trying to get you. I'm just kidding.
Oh, really? No, trust me. But just we it's about the beautiful, colorful tree with lots of presents and lots of good food. And yeah, that's what Christmas means to me.
Oh, okay. All right. What would people say? The pagan side of Christmas?
I guess so.
Yes, the non-religious side of Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. No, I was just wondering. Okay. So, everybody, I was listening to a podcast. You know, I like listening to politicking. Yes, I do. So this week, Marshawn was back on with Gavin Newsom and Doug Henderson, but and I know some people probably listen to this are like, fucking Gavin Newsom. Yes, Gavin Newsom, but that's not the point. Mark Hamill from Star Wars was on the podcast. I didn't know that one is like super left. I didn't know that. But also, he is hilarious. Like, even if you don't agree with his politics, which some of them, like I said, he's super left. But he is hilarious. Like, he is really, really funny. And when he talks about the Star Wars story and all of the stuff that happened way back in the 1970s and everything, I just thought he was funny. Like, I thought that was a really good guest that they have. I listened to some of the other podcasts where it seems like they've had guests and they've been kind of really, I don't know, stodgy, kind of uptight, so to speak. But except for the one, there was one too with Leslie Jones. She is hilarious too. But she's a comedian, so you expect that. But this one, it was really funny. Anyway.
You know what? I feel really bad for Mark Hamill because,
Why?
The guy sitting right next to him in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon shot to superstardom. And this poor guy tried so hard and he just didn't have that personality, He didn't have that screen presence. And I think he should have just transitioned into another career, but he couldn't let go, And now it's like 60 years later and, he's this, it's kind of sad.
Okay, so here's the thing about him that I did not know, and I just want to look up to make sure that I'm looking this up.
And he was amazing in Star Wars, but it seems like that was the only role that was a fantastic fit for him.
Okay, so you know that number one, he's worth $20 million.
I get that. He's done a lot of I know that he's done the voice of the Joker in the cartoons.
Yeah.
I know he's done a lot of voice acting.
Yes, that's where he's made his money.
Yeah.
He has been able to make a career in voiceovers and like make money that way.
Yeah,
So,
I get but from his perspective as an aspiring actor, do you think he feels fulfilled? I mean, yes, he made a shitload of money, but do you think I assume he's jealous as hell of Harrison Ford. I assume.
Because Harrison Ford is worth $300 million.
That's yes. And I look what he accomplished. He just that, Star Wars shot him to a whole other place as opposed to Mark Hamill. It's yeah.
I know. I mean, I guess I don't know if he's jealous, right? Like, I don't know. He didn't sound like that on the podcast. He didn't sound like he was like salty.
Right.
He really didn't sound like he was
Right.
salty. But we don't know. I mean, here's the thing. He's an actor, right? He could be salty and we just don't know.
Yeah.
But I think because he was able to, I don't know. He's older too now. Like, they're both like in their 70s or something, right? So
I think Harrison Ford's like 81 or something now.
yeah, okay. So
Mark Hamill's a little younger.
yeah, like I think he's in his 70s. So my point is that maybe he's resolved ooh, excuse me, resolved any, resentment that he may have had, like, in his older
Yeah,
age, like, looking
yeah,
back at it.
I
But
hope
I
so.
wouldn't be surprised if when he was younger, he was like, "What the fuck is this shit?"
Yeah, and also, I think, he's also probably a little pissy because Harrison Ford got Carrie Fisher and he didn't, so.
Well, we didn't talk about that, but maybe. Were they, like, fighting for her offset?
They both were into her, but,
Oh, really?
he was only into Harrison Ford, and
Ah,
she dated him, briefly, and he was married at the time, so it was a fling, and he walked away from it, but she was very traumatized by it,
I did
because
hear
she
that.
was really in love with him. She was a young woman, she was in her, I think, really early 20s, and he was in his 30s, and yeah.
So I did hear that they had a fling, and, I didn't know that it was that intense the way you were talking about it. I know, though, she was a motherfucking drug addict.
Oh, yeah. As you could see in the later years, drugs affected her for sure.
I mean, they said that when she died, they found cocaine in her system, and
Yeah.
she like, well, how old was she when she died? She's like 60 some who
She was
was
in her 60s.
doing lines at that age?
I guess a lot of people.
Right? Like, what?
I would say a lot of people.
Wow. I mean, like, I just feel like at a certain point, you just have to tell yourself, "Stop. This is not because my heart's just gonna go." You know? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. But it's hard once you're addicted to that stuff.
well, I
Yeah.
know she was doing it when they were in Star Wars, so she talks about, like, there was a lot of drugs on that set. So my whole thing is, if they were doing drugs and stuff, then how did she think that that was gonna be a real relationship if she was in a drug addicted affair? That's I mean, I'm just saying, right? Like, maybe
That's Hollywood for you, right? That's all that's that's well, they also get divorced within a few months.
right? Okay, so I don't know if it's true, but do you feel like since we're talking about Hollywood really quickly, and then we're gonna talk about AI 'cause this is gonna be a mini
Yeah.
because it's the holiday. Do you feel like Lady Gaga and what's that dude's name? Star is Born. Um, I can't believe I can't think of his name because I used to have such a crush on him. Wait, let me look him up.
You talking about the guy in it? The what's his name?
Yes,
Matthew
yes,
no, what's his name?
Star is Born.
Bradley Cooper?
Yes, him. Thank you.
Oh, man,
Do you think that they really had something, or do you think that that was just an
I
intense connection for the role?
I wouldn't put it past them for having, if they had something going, you know? Yeah, I would say it's entirely possible.
'Cause they never they never copped to it, but people thought that they did because the chemistry was so intense. Did you ever see the movie?
I did, yeah. I
I
thought it was
mean,
good, but
you look that
felt like
like
it was trying too hard.
you think he was trying too hard?
I felt the movie was trying too hard, yeah.
Oh,
The
really? You didn't like the movie?
I thought it was good, but, like, calm down, take it, slow just relax a little bit. You're trying too hard to be your characters? It just didn't seem totally natural to me. And it's
Oh.
like, knowing who Bradley Cooper is, I felt like he was trying too hard to be that person in that role.
Okay. Uh
You know,
Okay.
like, you know what I'm saying?
That Goering, that was really
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah.
That was good, Steven. Oh my god, Steven, that was really good.
Oh, well, thank you.
You caught me off guard with that. Um, I was not expecting that.
Um, so
Okay,
I
go
I actually was listening to a podcast. I was it's called Really Not Really with one of my favorite TV actors, Jason Alexander, and it's him and a radio personality named Peter Tilden.
Uh-huh.
And it's
Jason
not.
you're from Seinfeld?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, go on.
Yeah, so and for those of you that are familiar with Seinfeld, I assume most people are familiar with Seinfeld that are listening here. But he's Jason Alexander is one of the main characters in
Mhm.
Seinfeld, and it's just incredibly funny. And his comedic timing is just it's amazing. And Seinfeld's my number one favorite TV show of all time. But he's got this podcast, and it's not him trying to be funny or anything, but the conversations he has with people are it's good conversation. He talks about a broad range of things, and he has good deep conversations with people. He invited Jaleel White on. Are you familiar with Jaleel White?
You mean, Urkel?
Steve, Steve. Yes, Urkel. I like how your voice went, high pitched.
Okay.
No, but he was talking about the conversation he was having with Urkel was about what it's like to have you're back in the 90s, maybe the 80s as well. I think maybe the early 90s era, and you have a team of all white writers writing a sitcom about a black family in Chicago, and you have one of the characters is a black character who's a super nerd acting like a white guy, a white nerd, So they were talking about, the cultural conflicts maybe, or what it was like for Jaleel White to be in that time, and so it was interesting conversation. And what it's like to once it all goes away, all of a sudden it's just snap, and all of a sudden you're irrelevant. So it's good conversation. But I highly recommend that podcast.
Wow. First of all, audience, let's give Steven a hand. He listened to more than one podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Steven. Um, first of all, I gotta say I'm very proud of you for
Thank
listening
you.
to another podcast.
Yeah, it's
Really,
actually pretty
really.
addicting. Once you start, it's just you go down
Right?
you can't stop.
I
Yeah.
know. Okay, I'll have to check that one out. So, really not really. That's interesting. That's an interesting topic. I didn't even think about all of that.
Right, right.
And
These are things that you wouldn't ordinarily think about, but so that's
yeah.
why that is there. He has interesting conversations with his guests that you wouldn't think to, you wouldn't think you just wouldn't think about these things.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's good.
It's interesting. Okay, so let's pivot for a bit. So AI. All right. So this is kind of podcast related, but it's still about AI. So I listened to this podcast. You probably couldn't get through it because most of the guys on there are pretty conservative. It's called All In, and it's like with all these venture people. And in fact, one of the people from the podcast, David Sachs, he's like a really well-known venture capitalist VC. He's going to be in Doge and the government as like the
Oh yeah,
AI cybersecurity, or no, I'm sorry, crypto currency person. So he's going to kind of be leading policy and initiatives on that side. But so I listened to the All In podcast, and they were going back and forth. They always go back and forth about certain things in tech, in you know just talking about things with the government and Elon, because 80% of them, I think one person voted for Kamala, but the other like three of them voted for Trump.
Hmm.
Um, and they're all friends with Elon. Um, so they're like deep in the whole, Silicon Valley, like higher echelon. But what I thought was so interesting is at the end, so they had the CEO of Box on, right? Box, the
Yeah.
software Box, right?
Can you
And
tell the audience? Can you tell the audience about it, just very quickly?
Box,
Yeah.
okay, so Box is like a data management, like a file management tool, and you can do all kinds of things in terms of managing different types of folders and like your whole environment um via that platform. Do you think that's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's pretty
Yeah.
um accurate? Okay, so it's a huge company. It trades on the stock market. Anyway, at the end of this podcast, it was about an hour, they said, okay, let's talk about AI. So I don't know if people know, but Google came out with this whole quantum computing thing. And even if you don't know what quantum computing is, that's okay. The point is, they literally said that Google now with Gemini is better than OpenAI. They said they did a side-by-side comparison. So OpenAI just recently released something that's like $200 a month. I don't know if you knew about this. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be like super powerful, and the model is supposed to be like extra expert in terms of providing like really high level answers. And they compared that version to the recent free or $20 version that you could buy from Google Gemini, and Gemini had better answers. And what they're saying is that while OpenAI has come out and has been like the leader of, everybody's on ChatGPT, ChatGPT, if I can get it out, and OpenAI are the same thing to our audience who is listening. OpenAI owns ChatGPT, and that Google, because Google was actually the first large entity to do artificial intelligence, a lot of people who work at all these companies like Anthropic, which is Claude, and even like the Facebook side on the AI side, and XAI on they all came from Google for the most part.
Mhm.
So Sergey Brin, who started Google, he's back in the office with Sundar, with the CEO of Google, and they are going just full all in terms of trying to capture the market. And at the end of this conversation, they all felt like Google is going to overtake OpenAI, and in like
Mhm.
1 to 2 years, Google is going to be number one, and that OpenAI is going to be maybe 3 or 4 if you're stack ranking how these particular tools are working. And they're saying that Google is at the precipice of being at the level of making this happen. Therefore, they're going to be able to really allow it to go up, because 70% of the usage of OpenAI slash ChatGPT is users like you and me, retail users. That's what they call us, retail users. And so everybody uses. So essentially, like, it could be where everybody's going to start using Gemini because it's just better. And you might have ads or no ads, kind of like how you have Google today. So I just thought that was
Mhm.
really freaking crazy, because everybody's been talking about OpenAI, OpenAI, OpenAI. But
Yeah.
if you remember, or if you know any of the history, I should say, because some of us might not remember this, with like the browsers, it was the same thing. And even Yahoo versus Google. Like, there was a period where everybody was using Yahoo,
Mhm.
Google was just this thing, and then
Yeah.
Google totally took them over. So I'm wondering if we're gonna go back to that phase. I just thought that was so freaking interesting.
Yeah, and we know how many Google is so resource rich. I think it's
Right.
entirely plausible. It's yeah.
Anyway, I like that
Like,
podcast
I think
from
I
it.
think
What you say?
competition is healthy. So,
Mhm.
either way, whoever turns out on top, the fact that they're competing with each other is good for us.
Yes, I 100% agree. And they were also saying, because Gemini is not only just trained on the language piece, but that it can even do like 3D video and move camera angles around and everything. Because now they say they're not sure if they're training on YouTube. I think they're freaking training on YouTube because they own YouTube, right? So why wouldn't they be training on it?
Mm,
But evidently they have to change the T's and C's to really be able to do
mhm.
that. But they have so much content and data that it's much more robust than
Yeah,
what
yeah,
is out there for some of these other large language models to use.
yeah.
So I just thought this was a super interesting conversation. And as I said, I know you probably wouldn't listen to it because you don't agree with the all in people, but I find that podcast super intriguing and interesting. And this part about I feel like I had to talk about it because it really could change just how people are thinking about the whole ChatGPT, AI tool set that they're utilizing.
You know
So
what, maybe? I'm gonna
check it out.
listen to All In just because, I'm down that path now. You're saying it's a good listen. I'm gonna listen to it before our next podcast. Uh,
Mhm. Okay. I know there's gonna be things on there that you're gonna be like, "Oh, these guys, I can't stand them, blah, blah, blah." But they are so, like, because they are in the field that they're in, and just because we have a huge technology piece and, that's close to us,
Yeah.
I just think that the information that they have in that podcast is just great. It's it's on point for sure.
All in. I'm all in, Robbie. I do want to take a moment to
Yes.
apologize to our listeners because I'm so disappointed in myself. I'm just so frazzled by, the everything going on right now. I forgot to do my traditional intro, so it'll come at the end. I'm
Oh,
so,
right.
uh, how could I leave that part out? Oh, jeez.
All right.
Anyways,
Well, since this is a mini, we can cut it short unless you have something that you want to say about AI. I
well,
mean, we got to do the holiday break thing. We got to give them a break. We got to take a break.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
oh,
So I will just leave it at this. I there's a AI item that I want to talk about next
mhm.
week. A little teaser. It's a and it'll still be during the holidays. It'll be nice. It's about dogs. It's about the love. I love dogs, and it's a feel good story about dogs helping detect cancer in humans
Oh,
using AI. So there's a
okay.
company that they're called Spot It Early, and we'll talk about that next time.
Oh, that sounds cool. I love dogs too. And that sounds really great. Okay. All right, Stephen. Well, everyone, we're going to end early and I'm going to give the floor to Stephen for close.
Well, my friends, thank you again. It is I, Stephen Kennedy, your board certified atheist, at your service, with Robbie signing off. Have a wonderful holiday and talk to you next week.
Have a great holiday, guys. Bye.